When life hits the reset button, what is the lesson? Do we listen instead of hopping right back on immediately? Do we pause and reset? Have we established a balance between being and doing for once we get through the tunnel to the other side? I've come to realize that what I need to share with all of you in these videos are the lessons that I learn as I trot along this path, and perhaps you will join me on this journey and may find some of my experiences, lessons, adventures, or even hiccups helpful in some way to you as well. I'm going to simply share, and sometimes that may be a book or a podcast or some other source that has crossed my path at some point, in hopes that you may find the information useful as well. The lesson handed to me most recently is around being and doing. And I personally believe there is an and between the being and doing, instead of versus, which is what we often hear. If you look at the YinYang symbol, there is a little yin and the yang, and a little yang and the yin. There is a balance. This was not a first-time lesson from the universe to me. Maybe you can relate to that. It seems that we get these lessons to practice, to see what we've learned along our way, and hopefully each time they come to revisit us, they're a little less extreme because we've learned something and we've stepped forward. And here's my most recent lesson from the universe. We had headed out on an 18-hour each-way trip to South Carolina for vacation. Prior to going, I was already having some back issues and pinch nerve issues. And with an 18-hour drive each way, it probably didn't help. So by the time we returned, I had to resign myself to the fact that it was time to head back to the chiropractor after a 2.5-year sabbatical and try to figure this out. As you can see, my back was a bit out of whack. Then I was hit with a non-COVID bug that floored me for over a week. I had aches, pains, fever, cough, runny nose, and then let's just mix in the pot for good measure, a little perimenopause symptoms, and just overall rundown feeling. Mother's Day was canceled, family gathering was unattended, there was no writing, no exercising done for days. The universe had officially given me a timeout with a little extra just to make sure that I was listening. So what is the lesson for us when this happens, and how do we respond? For me personally, it's happened enough that I know I need to rest and to stop and to regroup a bit. And so in this instance particularly, it was listening to my back, getting to the chiropractor a couple times a week, and just stopping. And that can be really uncomfortable for so many of us. But that's what I did. I stopped exercising. I stopped my to-do list, which is so stressful not to have that. And quite honestly, it's taken me a few weeks now to regroup from that. But I knew that my mind, body, and spirit needed a reset. And for each of us, that's going to be different. We all need to listen to our own mind, body, and spirit and figure out what we need from that. And then I'm fortunate in that I was able to remove myself from my natural habitat, so to speak. I am fortunate that I have Tom, who is a planner, and he and I headed to Acadia National Park in Maine for the long Memorial Day weekend, and I was able to connect to nature and to get inspired. I was able in the evenings after we did our physical activity or went out to eat and did different things, I was able to sit and kind of consume information and then brainstorm for either videos or for book 2. And then I just gave myself space, and that really sometimes does not happen the same way in our normal settings. I was reminded in a big way that sometimes we need to hit the pause button ourselves, or else the universe is going to do it for us. And then lastly, to be gentle with ourselves when that is what is needed, instead of bullying through. We can try to will things to happen or will ourselves to stay in a routine, and sometimes we just need a break to reset. As for being and doing, I personally believe it is balance. Being is kind of a state of existence. It's being present. It is joy. It is getting into a flow. And then doing, if isolated, is more action-based. It's more future thinking, probably more goal-driven, as so many of us are. I believe that many of us head directly for doing and will attempt to, as I mentioned just a minute ago, will our desired outcome to happen. And we've kind of been trained that way in our lifetimes, for that matter. But what if we were to give focus more to that being state, to that state in the present, to love and joy and compassion and kindness and gratitude, and then watch how our doing then evolves and it ends up being more of a flow, more ease in what we're doing than the necessity of willing something to happen or forcing something to happen. And of course, goals and lists are not bad. I have to live with them or else I float in the ethers a bit. But let's ask ourselves what lies beneath those goals for us. Is our being transforming our doing, or are we more forcefully doing for other reasons that maybe aren't as authentic to ourselves? So to change that, what do? We begin to give more space through stillness, through breath, through reflection or meditation, or even journaling. We take small steps each day toward finding our balance. We can do those artist states that I've talked about before on other videos with Julie Cameron's book. And we get out in nature, which is so healing for so many reasons. And then, when we're consuming information, we're not just consuming it for that sake, but we're seeing how we can integrate it into our days and into our lives. And then we come back to stillness also to see what's within ourselves and not looking externally for what we think we need. And overall, we're just hitting that reset button. We're taking a pause for ourselves to evaluate what we need in mind, body, and spirit. And that is a wrap for today. I am going to try to keep these videos more succinct and short. And I thank you for your patience because I am trying to figure out how best to do these and how I want to do them. And hopefully you have been along to see the evolution of them, or maybe not. Anyway, thank you for watching today, or for whenever you may watch this. And, as always, thank you and keep stepping forward.